Let's discuss about volume management in Android Automotive. Volume management is handled by Car Audio Service. Car Audio Service uses fixed volumes with the expectation that volumes are applied below the HAL by a hardware amplifier instead of in the software. Car Audio Service organizes output devices into volume groups to apply the same gains to all devices associated with a volume group. Imagine your car has a fancy sound system with multiple speakers. There's one knob for volume, but it controls all the speakers at the same time, right? Well, that is kind of how volume management works in Android for cars. The Car Audio Service is responsible for handling all the volume settings. It does not really adjust the volume itself. Instead, it works with a hardware amplifier. Think of this like a powerful sound booster that is built into the car. Our audio service groups all the different speakers, like your door speakers, your tweeters, or your subwoofer, into different volume groups. Each volume group acts like its own little volume knob. So, when you adjust the volume using the car controls, Car Audio Service sends a signal to the hardware amplifier. The amplifier then adjusts the volume for all the speakers within that specific group. This way, you can have separate volume levels for different types of apps. It is like having multiple volume knobs, but only one that you actually use. And remember, Car Audio Service uses fixed volumes. This means that the actual volume levels are determined by the hardware amplifier, not by software. So while you can adjust the overall volume, the actual loudness of the speakers is controlled by the hardware. That is the basics of volume management in Android for car. Next time you are cruising in your car, think about all the little pieces working together to create that awesome sound experience. Android Automotive audio implementations use a hardware amplifier to control volume instead of a software mixer. To avoid side effects, set the config_use fixed volume flag to true. You can overlay this setting as necessary. When the config_use fixed volume flag is not set or is set to false, apps can call audio manager.setStreamVolume to change the volume by stream type in the software mixer. However, this may not always be desirable. Changing the volume in the software mixer can affect other apps and may result in fewer significant bits available in the signal when it is received by the hardware amplifier. Volume groups are used to manage the volumes for a collection of devices within an audio zone. Each volume group allows you to control the volume independently. The resulting gains are then configured on the associated devices and applied by the vehicle's amplifier. Volume settings are saved for the user and automatically loaded when the user signs in. Think of it like a conductor leading an orchestra, where each instrument's volume is adjusted to create a harmonious performance. Car Audio Service uses volume groups defined in car_audio_configuration.xml. Each volume group should contain one or more output devices with associated addresses. Addresses should correspond to the output devices defined in audio_policy_configuration.xml. This XML describes an audio zone configuration for a car. Think of it like a map that shows how different speakers and sound sources are connected and controlled. So let's break it down step by step. Audio zone configuration version equals 2.0. This line tells us looking at a configuration file for audio zones, and it's using version 2.0, meaning it's a modern and advanced way to manage sound. Zones tag. This tells us we are about to define different sound zones in the car. Zone name equals primary zone is primary equals true. This defines the main sound zone in the car, the one that's most important. The is primary equals true part indicates that this zone is the primary, meaning it's the default zone for most sound output. Volume group. This section tells us we're about to define different groups of speakers, each with its own volume control. Group tag. Each group represents a set of speakers that will share the same volume level. Media_out. This defines a specific speaker output identified by its unique address. In this case, bus0_media_out. This is likely the speaker that's dedicated to playing music. Context equals music. This tells us that this particular speaker is intended for playing music. So, when the system plays music, it will route the audio to this speaker. Group tag. This starts a new volume group, and the following lines define the speakers within this group. Device address equals bus1_navigation_out. This defines another speaker, likely the one for navigation announcements. Context equals navigation. This tells us that the speaker is specifically for navigation audio. Device address equals bus. To_voice_command_out. This defines a third speaker, likely used for voice commands, such as when you use a voice assistant. Context equals voice_command. This tells us that this speaker is specifically for voice commands. This code tells us that the car's audio system has different zones, and each zone has different groups of speakers. Each speaker group has a specific function, like playing music, navigation, or voice commands, and all speakers within a group share the same volume level. Let's look into how the volume for different devices in a car is set. First, remember that the car's audio system is divided into different zones and groups. In this section, we'll focus on the specific settings for each group. Here's an example of how the volume for a specific device group is configured. We're looking at a device called bus0_media_out, which is used for playing music. This device has several settings, including its audio format, sampling rate, and most importantly, its gains. Gains determine how loud the device can get, and they have four main values. Step value MB, this means the volume can only be adjusted in specific increments, like going up or down by 100. Value MB, this is the minimum volume level for the device, like the softest setting you can adjust. Max value MB, this is the maximum volume level for the device, like the loudest setting you can adjust. The default value MB, this is the default volume level for the device, the level it will be set to when first turned on. Now here's the interesting part. The car's audio system might have several devices in a group. Each device can have its own minimum, maximum, and default volume levels. When the system sets the volume for the group, it looks at all the devices within that group and picks the most extreme value. So, for the entire group, the minimum volume is the lowest minimum value of all the devices in the group. The maximum volume is the highest maximum value of all the devices. The default volume is the highest default value. This means if you try to set the volume for the group to a level that's outside the range for one of the devices, that device will simply be set to its minimum or maximum volume, depending on whether the group's volume is below or above its range. So, in a way, the car's audio system is like a group of friends trying to find a compromise on the volume. Everyone wants to set their own preferred level, but they have to agree on a single volume that works for everyone in the group.